You have exactly 3 seconds to like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I'll appear in your dreams tonight. To ask for a donation for that cup of coffee, link below.
Can you guess what subject children in North Korea learn the most? It's not math, but learning to worship the leader one-on-one. From a young age, North Korean children are taught that their leader is not just the head of state, but also a superhero capable of doing everything. From defeating enemies to controlling the weather. They had to respect the leader more than their parents. If they failed to do so well, they would certainly be punished. For example, if someone cries insincerely at a leader's funeral, they will be sent to a remote labor camp and forced to live far away from their family. As for what constitutes genuine crying, we don't know either. That's right. You heard that correctly. That's exactly what happens in North Korea. In this, we'll explore a big question. Why do North Koreans revere their leaders so much? Is it because they all drink some secret soft drink created by the North Korean state? Or perhaps they were all enchanted by some kind of magic. Let's find out. To explain the cult of personality in North Korea, we need to buckle up and take a train back to the post-World War II era. Beginning with the Korean War, with the support of the Soviet Union, North Korea separated from the rest of the peninsula. This not only marked a momentous change for a nation, but also the debut stage for the first star in the Kim universe, named Kim Il-sung. Why do you think that's the case? Kim Il-sung is portrayed as a national hero in the war against Japanese occupation. The story of his bravery and leadership in the war against Japan has been retold so many times that every Korean knows it by heart, like the alphabet. When mentioning Kim Il-sung, it's impossible not to mention the Juche political ideology, also known as Jucheism. This ideology was developed and refined by him over the years. Specifically, the North Korean regime absorbed philosophies, modified them to suit its own purposes, and then propagated them to the people. The cult of faith in the Kim family borrowed a little from Stalinism, a little from Messianic Christianity, a little from Confucian ancestor worship, a little from indigenous shamanism, and a little from Japanese emperor worship. That Kim Il-sung was a god who created the world. Legend has it that when Kim Il-sung was born, the Taedong Glacier melted in the middle of the harsh winter. Then a brilliant rainbow appeared in the sky at the time of his birth. Not to mention, on the very day he was born, a bright star appeared in the sky. No one knows the truth, but it is certain that this led the people to believe that their ruler was not just an ordinary human being who ate and drank like everyone else, but a true god. Is not that much cooler than knowing that your boss is just a human being. In order to firmly establish the myths he himself created, he did not allow people to follow different religions, believing that it posed a direct threat to the regime. During Kim Il-sung's early rule, the state destroyed over 2,000 Buddhist temples and Christian churches because they were believed to diminish loyalty to Kim. And you know what? In North Korea, there are no elections for choosing the leader. Why? Because they have a truly unique form of power transfer. Starting with Kim Il-sung, then Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un. Power in North Korea is like a family heirloom, passed down from father to son, from one generation to the next. Of course, power cannot be transferred so simply. That's all thanks to Kim Il-sung's tremendous efforts. Korean society, traditionally a Confucian society, places great emphasis on the hierarchical structure of father and son, king and subject. And taking advantage of this, Kim Il-sung constructed a myth that he had created a ruling family and that only they could lead the nation. It seems that in North Korea, the blood of the leader is a special kind of blood, reserved only for special people. Even more special is that Kim Il-sung's children and grandchildren not only inherited power, but also What does that mean? If Kim Il-sung was a god, then the name Kim Jong-il is the son of a god or the son of the nation. Of course, if Kim Il-sung created all things, then Kim Jong-il also has his own legend, namely the ability to control the weather. As for Kim Jong, he possesses extraordinary talent and intelligence. According to legend, he possessed profound knowledge of the universe and was a genius leader from a young age. So, we've had a glimpse into the history and politics of North Korea, where power is family-run, and the leader is not just the head of state, but also the star of every mythical story. But after traveling through time to explore North Korea's history and politics, many might be wondering, why are they so easily manipulated? Of course, the answer is, it's not that simple. North Korea's biggest secret lies in its control of information and propaganda. First, let's talk about information control. In North Korea, information is not just for keeping up with the news, but also for creating love. You heard that right. In North Korea's information world, filter is the keyword. All information is carefully selected to ensure you receive only the best news about the leader. Imagine having a friend who always tells you good things about someone else, never saying anything negative. Surely that person must be a truly good person. Right. That's exactly how North Korean media operates. In North, every photograph, every article, every television program is edited to make the leader appear as perfect as possible. Who needs Photoshop when you have a whole propaganda team? If you think Hollywood is good at storytelling, then after this video, you'll know Hollywood isn't even as good as a part of North Korea. North Korean propaganda can transform an ordinary event into a mythical one. Do you want to watch an action movie? There will certainly be scenes of leaders defeating their enemies. Do you want to listen to a romantic song? Perhaps they will also talk about love for their leader. Here, even a stroll in a park or rice field can become a national event. Everything from harvesting rice to exploring space is recounted as miraculous events, with a central figure, the beloved leader. Even in North Korea, meeting the leader requires bringing pen and paper. Whether you're a farmer, an intellectual, or a general, if you meet a leader, you must bring pen and paper, because every word of the leader is precious and should not be wasted. And it's not just information. In North Korea, they also create fairy tales about their leaders. That story is about the intelligence, courage, talent of the leader. That's why we say North Korean media can create that kind of love. Furthermore, people place absolute trust in what they hear because they essentially have no access to any other sources of information. To understand the reason, we must talk about the internet network in North Korea. Oh no, don't even think about YouTube or Facebook. Here, the internet is a privilege, available only to a select few. And if you're lucky enough to be one of those few, you'll only have access to a special version of the internet, with no windows opening to the outside world. And of course, no room for foreign radio or television. Why listen to what the outsiders say when you can hear and see what the government wants you to know? But controlling information isn't everything. You might be surprised to learn that the government is gradually shaping people's consciousness. What does shaping consciousness mean? In other words, they find every way to deeply engrave the image of the leader into the subconscious of every person, from the moment they are born. To achieve that, they started with education in North Korea. Education is more than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's like a long-term course on how to love your leader. To do that, they need a primary propaganda tool. You think they only propagate through books and television? You're wrong. Surprising. Their primary propaganda tool is textbooks. There, the subject of history isn't about learning what happened in the past, but all historical events revolve around the achievements and greatness of the unparalleled leader. Even Napoleon and Alexander the Great had to take a backseat to the Korean leaders in their textbooks. It seems that Einstein and Newton are merely supporting characters in the story of North Korean leaders. Don't be surprised if you see a math problem about how Chairman Kim distributed 10 apples to 5 citizens, and everyone felt overwhelmingly happy. That's North Korean-style mathematics. Not to mention, the image of the leader is constantly propagated and repeated, appearing everywhere, wall-painted, television programs, and cultural events. This makes people view the leader as an indispensable part of their lives, culture, and national identity. It can be said that propaganda is the main tool in building and maintaining an image. Through controlling information and propaganda, the government not only consolidates its power, but also profoundly influences people's perceptions and thinking about leadership and the regime. Art and culture here are not just means of entertainment, but also powerful propaganda tools. Every painting tells a story about the greatness of a leader. Perhaps Hollywood needs to learn a few tricks from North Korea for making films. Let's see. Every painting tells a story about the greatness of the leader. Perhaps Hollywood needs to learn a few tricks from North Korea when making films. Let's take a look. Here's a scene of North Korean students singing and crying when they meet their leader. At first, it might seem strange, but it's actually a unique aspect of their culture. And this is North Korea's most popular band. Can you guess what they sang about? That's right. They specialize in singing songs praising the leader. What about festivals and events? They also often focus on glorifying the leadership and achievements of the regime. For the people of North Korea, this is not just an occasion for entertainment, but also an opportunity to spread propaganda and reaffirm their loyalty to the leader. So, how does all of this affect the people of North Korea? Imagine, from the moment you were born, you were immersed in a world where the leader was at the center of everything. You don't just learn about them at school. You see their images everywhere, from your home to the park, from bookstores to movie theaters. This creates a situation where the leader is not only the head of state, but also an integral part of daily life. The purpose of this process is to create a solid foundation for loyalty and adoration of the leader, while consolidating the regime's power and political stability. But the world is still shaken by a few North Koreans who stand up and speak out about how the Kim family has manipulated them. So, it's likely that not 100% of North Koreans believe in their leader. It seems, and perhaps even is, that many North Koreans behave like believers simply because they are forced to. But what held them back, preventing them from standing up and resisting? The main reason preventing them is fear and social control. In North Korea, surveillance systems, both through cameras and through human observation, run 24/7. First, let's talk about the surveillance system in North Korea. Here, it's not just security cameras. Colleague, even relatives, all can become the government's eyes and ears. If you do something wrong, someone will report you immediately. Therefore, many people live in a constant state of vigilance and fear, always worried about the possibility of being monitored and punished. Thousands of political prisoners were held as slaves in brutal labor camps, where simply not being tortured to death was considered a blessing. But that's not all. Punishment in North Korea is also a particularly noteworthy aspect. Acts of opposition or criticism against the government or its leaders were severely punished, including imprisonment, harbor, or even the death penalty. This punishment spares no one. Even Kim Jong-un's uncle, Jang Suk, was executed on December 12, 2013. He was accused of undermining the Kim family cult. Jang's daughters, sons, and even the grandchildren of his two brothers were all executed. His death was also seen as a move by Kim Jong-un to consolidate his personal cult of personality. Those who say no to the policy may have to say goodbye to an unwanted vacation. Of course, nobody wants to go to jail or die, right? Thus, those deemed non-compliant or rebellious may be isolated or excluded from the community. This creates a social environment where people feel compelled to comply in order to protect themselves and their families. But it's not just about fear. North Korea also has a system of controlling social consciousness. From school to the workplace, people are instructed to think and act in the way the government wants. Freedom of thought here is a rather unfamiliar concept. Furthermore, obedience to and reverence for the leader is seen as an expression of patriotism and responsibility towards the community. So, we've landed after our surreal flight over North Korea. If the Oscars had an award for Best Propaganda Screenplay, it would surely go to North Korea. So, we've landed after our surreal flight over North Korea. If the Oscars had an award for Best Propaganda Screenplay, it would undoubtedly go to North Korea. From history being rewritten and propaganda elevated to an art form, to mind control of every citizen. Here we see a nation where truth is perhaps just a word in the dictionary. And the consciousness of its people is shaped no different from programming a machine. What about personal freedom? Oh, maybe it was just a bedtime joke. But remember, every time you hear about North Korea, you're only hearing part of the story. And what about the rest? Perhaps it will forever remain buried beneath the veil of propaganda culture.